Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Oh, seeing some smiling faces here. I love it. Hello. It is Tuesday. Hope everyone's week is off to a good start, having a good, productive week so far. I personally just love springtime where everything is like coming back to bloom and like new spring green. Like that's my absolute favorite color, like just new life, new beginning. The only thing I hate is all the pollen. Where I live, we have tons of pollen. It looks like people have colored the entire streets with yellow chalk, is what it looks like. But it's pollen time, but it's still a good season. So happy to see everyone here. Yes, happy spring. Hello, hello. I was just talking with Andrea and someone from her team, Amanda. We are talking about time zones. And so someone's saying good morning. It's afternoon for some of us, it's morning for some of us. It's all confusing, but glad that we are all here. So we have a very special guest today, one that comes very highly personally recommended from our president, Renee Lennox. And so we have Andrea Janzen. And so we have heard fantastic things about her company Ambition Theory and her coaching certification and program that she has. And so she's going to share some of that with us today. And so I know we're all so excited to hear it. And so I'm so excited for Andrea. She is a certified executive coach with an MBA, the host of the Ambition Theory podcast, a Forbes contributor, and a top ranked speaker. She is passionate about coaching women in construction to develop themselves, set leadership goals, and get results. Since 2018, Andrea has coached and trained over 1,000 construction professionals. And before becoming a coach, she was a marketing leader that worked with some of the world's best known brands. So she is more than qualified to be talking with us. I know tons of the Lady Titans have shared, like, hey, we want the leadership training and the leadership experience. And so we are bringing that today. So, Andrea, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. And like you said, I don't know if Renee's here. She messaged me this morning saying that she has two sick kiddos. So I'm just honored that Renee kind of created this opportunity, and we get to spend this time together today to really talk about what leadership looks like in construction. And actually, we got some brand new research that I don't even know if Renee has seen yet that I'm going to be sharing today about why now is the time, why we need more women in leadership positions in this industry, and how you can really bring more value to your company, level up your career. We're going to talk about all of that today. So we got a lot to cover. So I am just going to dive in, if that's okay. So first things first, we're actually going to talk about a lot of stuff today. We're going to talk about quantitative research. We're going to talk about strategies to advance your career. We're going to talk about why women aren't advancing at the same rate as men, and it's a lot. So what I want you all to do is just check in here with us. You'll get added to our newsletter. We're going to send you our Building Better report. We'll send you some podcast episodes, and really because we know how you actually implement stuff, how you get results. So coming to like a one-off event, it's great. Like it's fun for us to spend time together. You're probably going to be inspired. But when it comes to getting results, that happens on the implementation. And so we know a lot of people can't like remember, everything that has been downloaded in this 1 hour. So we just want to make sure like you have this. And if you don't take notes or you're just kind of focused, that you can still implement this afterwards. So just please fill this out. We'll have this again at the end for you because we want to make sure we can support you after today. So like Emily said, my name is Andrea Janzen, and joining me is Amanda Portinari from our team. And we are a leadership development company focused on advancing women in construction. So every day we wake up and that is all we think about. How do we get more women like you leading in this industry? And so what we're really talking about today is a partnership that Ambition Theory has with NAWIC. So NAWIC's the National Association of Women in Construction. And the course that Renee took with us is through that partnership. So NAWIC's an association for women, and we are a leadership development company. And together we created this program that we're going to talk about today. We're going to share some insights. So that's just a little bit of background on us and this program that I'm going to talk to you about today. But before we go there, we have some ground rules at Ambition Theory. So the first rule is we are going to get out of our comfort zones because that is where the magic happens. So we're going to talk about things that you don't normally talk about at work. And you're going to be like, oh, why is she bringing this up? This is awkward. This is weird. If you're like, oh, I think I'm going to turn my screen off, I'm going to like pretend I'm getting a call. If you start to feel that way, I want to encourage you actually lean into it. Like, go there, lean into the discomfort, because that means you're in this yellow area. That's where you learn, that's where you grow, that's where you create opportunities for yourself. You bring value back to your company, and you really can get results. So, is everyone okay to get out of their comfort zone today? I think Sheila is. I saw Sheila laugh when I said this, and Sheila's got the camera on, so I love it. But let me know if you have your camera on. You can give me a thumbs up. You can give me an emoji. You can like type it in the chat, yes or no, if you're good to get out of your comfort zone today. Okay, Claire's giving me a thumbs up. Okay, awesome. Marissa's giving me hearts. Jessica's saying yes. Okay, awesome. So rule number 2 is no judgment. So I'm not going to judge you. I don't want you to judge each other. And most importantly, do not judge yourself. When we look at like our leadership's a different journey for everybody, and it's you versus you. So if I notice you comparing, I'm going to call you out. And yeah, if you notice other people being self-judgmental, please call them out. So is everyone okay to let go of judgment for this time we have together? Give me thumbs up, emoji, hearts, whatever works for you. Okay, awesome. And this is a tool that we use at Ambition Theory. It's a coaching tool. You can use it so many different ways, but it's really powerful to just check in with yourself as a leader. And so at Ambition Theory, we believe leadership is all about influence. So if you work with other people, you are a leader. It doesn't matter if you have direct reports, if you have the word like manager in your title, you are a leader. And so this is really powerful because it allows you to check in with yourself. So when you're below the line, you're judging, you're focused on what isn't working, you're blaming other people, you're waiting for others, you're making excuses. And the interesting thing about this model is these behaviors are contagious. So if you are, something challenging happens and you're blaming other people for it, yeah, maybe that's your normal human reaction, but you get to decide tomorrow, am I going to show up and continue to blame? Am I going to show up the next day, continue to blame? Or am I going to choose an above the line behavior? So above the line behaviors are moving forward, you're asking questions, you're curious, you're taking ownership, and these behaviors are contagious as well. So being able to check in with yourself, recognizing where you are, allows you the opportunity to choose your next move. So before we go any further, I just want to check in with all of you. Let me know where you are on the line today. Are you like, you can show me on the screen, type in the chat, like above, on, below, let me know. And if you're below the line, it's totally fine. We're not going to judge you. And I will acknowledge if you were below the line today, just like clicking on this Zoom link and surrounding yourself with other Lady Titans who are investing in their leadership development, that is an above the line behavior. So awesome. So thanks everyone for sharing that. So our agenda, we're going to talk about kind of events being powerful. We just kind of Women in Construction Week was like last week or the week before last. We're going to talk about like the impact of that, but what happens after that? Why women aren't advancing at the same rate as men, what actually moves careers forward. And if Renee's kind of okay, we're going to hear a story from her. I have a story from on video just in case, Renee, you can't hear it. Your story's so wonderful. I hope we can, but I have a backup video just in case. And then we'll spend a few minutes just talking about the NAWIC Leadership Academy. Is there actually, before we go, is there anything that you wanted to specifically learn today or have a question about? You can type it in the chat because we'll have some time to cover that at the end. So first I want to talk about, Amanda actually made this slide, and originally it said like Women in Construction Week is powerful, but it doesn't move women into leadership, get them on high profile projects, or rewrite the unspoken rules of the industry. And so this is like events, right? We see kind of lots of, especially this month, lots of events for women in construction, lots of inspiring stories, which they are really powerful. But at the end of the day, it's like, what happens next? How do we actually move the needle? And so we're going to talk about that today. So I want to dive right in and talk to you about why women aren't advancing at the same rate as men in the construction industry. So we actually have a research partnership with the National Center for Construction Education and Research. So we do a Building Better report. The first one was in 2023, and we just released our 2025 report the first day of Women in Construction Week. So it's brand new research, but actually this piece of research from a couple years ago. And so the first reason why men and women don't advance at the same rate is that women in construction face this double bind. So we actually asked women, what kind of feedback do you get about your leadership skills? And 78% have been told to be more confident. But those exact same women, 70% were told to be less bossy. So, how this typically shows up, it's like you want to get to that next level. So, you get feedback from your manager, you're like, or the person in charge of you, you're like, hey, I want to grow. They're like, yes, I want to support you. You need to work on your confidence. And you're like, okay, I will. So then you look around the industry or your company. If you're in a small company, you might look to the industry for what do successful leaders do? And so you see them giving direction, having an opinion, telling people what to do. And you're like, that's the model of a successful leader. I'm going to emulate and copy those behaviors. So you tell people what to do, you give your opinion, and then you get, called into your manager's office and it's like, ooh, we're getting some complaints about you. You're too aggressive, you're too bossy, maybe another word that starts with a B. And it's like, oh, well, what am I supposed to do? You told me to be more confident, but then I did. And so now you're telling me it's too much. So how am I supposed to behave? And women have to really walk this tightrope. And the interesting thing about this is that no one talks about this. And kind of the approach to leadership and leadership training is really more focused on kind of that directive approach. And so there's not really a way to teach this. It's not really taught today. People aren't they don't talk about this. So when this feedback comes up, people aren't recognizing, oh, maybe she's facing the double bind, and how can I support her as a manager to navigate this? Um, it's one of those things that it's just the reality of, we did this research in 2021, but this is alive and well in 2025. I know a couple people have typing it in. Has this happened to anyone? Let us know in the chat if you've experienced this double bind.
Marissa says, anyone been told to be more confident but less assertive? Like, okay, how does one
Yeah.
do that?
How does one do that? Okay,
I
yeah.
mean, be a
So this,
man, maybe.
yeah, be a man, maybe. Then you won't get that backlash. Yeah, so I think this is happening. It sounds like this is happening to you and you've seen it. And then we actually, in our 2025 research, we wanted to ask people, we wanted to figure out, like, what is it actually like being a woman in construction? What's a day in a life? So 67% of people have been interrupted or spoken over more often than others. People have been mistaken for someone in a more junior position than they are. And a lot of people have had their judgment questioned in their area of expertise. And we like to keep things above the line at Ambition Today. So this is literally why we made these shirts that say, like, yes, I'm the one in charge, because so many people would tell us, like, yeah, this has happened to me. And so, yeah, this is the reality. And I just think about when I first saw these numbers, and this is our brand new research, I was like, okay, you got to show up, you got to do your job, you got to lead others, you got to have this technical expertise. And you have to deal with all of this. I'm like, that is freaking exhausting, right? It's like, oh my goodness. Like, so that's like an extra weight that women have to carry. That actually men don't have to carry this weight today, in 2025. And then another reason is we actually asked women if they've had a woman manager or a supervisor, and 72% said no. And this is from our 2023 report. But when we first shared this research, people said, in like kind of in the chat, it was like, if you can see it, you can be it. But the reality is, most women in construction have not seen a real life woman leading in their company. So if you don't have that role model, and part of it is even like it's conscious, right? If like you don't see someone in a leadership role in your company, you're like, how is that going to happen for me? But sometimes it's also unconscious, right? Like the thought that you could be like in that high level leadership role, it may not even cross your mind because you're not exposed to it. So this is another reason why we don't see men and women advancing at the same rate. And then this one is, I think, based on, this was the most powerful insight and really like the main theme of our 2025 Building Better report, is this idea that transformational leadership isn't rewarded. And when you hear Renee's story, you're going to just really see the power of transformational leadership and how she's able to lead in a completely different way that really works for her company. But on the one side, you can see the transactional approach. And that's really where the leader's job is to set the vision for the team and then delegate the tasks to people. So when things are going well, it's like positive reinforcement. When things are going wrong, it's those crucial conversations, that difficult feedback to get things back on track. Whereas on the other side, the transformational approach, again, the leader sets the vision for the team or the company, but instead of telling people what to do, it's about inviting them in to contribute. It's about seeing people's strengths, aligning those strengths with what are the tasks that need to be done. It's more collaborative, it's based on trust, and it's basically actually encouraging people and motivating them so that they want to contribute versus a transactional approach is you have to contribute. And what's really cool about this model, and so we didn't invent this model, this has been studied for many years by researchers in other industries. Construction, you actually need both. So construction's a project-based industry. So you need transactional skills like managing a budget, managing timelines, literally telling people like you need to be here on this day and this is when it needs to be done by. So you absolutely need those transactional leadership skills in construction. But if you think about from a transformational perspective, construction is a project-based environment. So one really cool way that you can use your transformational leadership skills is on that kind of business development aspect, right? Like if you're just working project to project and you're only focused on your transactional skills, you're the only differentiator between you and your competitors is price. So you're kind of looking for that next job. It's like, we got to bid for it. How are we going to bid? Oh, price, time. That's what we have. But if you can build relationships, if you can understand like where your customer is going, what other projects are they working on, what are the other companies that you work with, what are they doing, you can really kind of see and make it beyond this like price-based bidding to actually help the company, help other companies reach their goals and really bring more value to the table. So the other really interesting thing about this model is that research shows, and this is our research within construction, but then also in other industries, it shows up this way. Women are naturally more transformational. Men are naturally more transactional. And today, the reality is that there's just more men in construction. It's nobody's fault. It just is. And the way that most companies decide, like, how do I know who I should be developing for leadership? How do I know who should get promoted? And it's usually what companies do is they look at the most successful leaders in the company. Today, they're mostly men. They reverse engineer the behaviors. So leaders are confident, assertive, they give direction, they manage budgets, they supervise. And so those are kind of the check boxes for leadership. But there isn't necessarily a checkbox for collaborative, inspires the team, helps people see their strengths. And so because we don't have a formal way to recognize the value that transformational leadership brings, men get promoted faster than women because it's easier for them to check those boxes than it is for women. So before I go any further, does this making sense for everybody? Give me a yes in the chat if you're like, yeah, this makes sense. Or if you have a question, type it in the chat too. Okay, it's making sense. Okay, awesome. I'll keep going. So this is another reason why men and women don't rise to leadership. And if you look at kind of the leadership training in construction, most of the courses are like supervisor training, project management training. And sometimes even we'll hear from people when they ask their manager, like most companies do want to invest in their employees, invest in their skill development. People are always told to take these technical courses, right? Take another project management course, take an estimating course, take a how to delegate course, take a budget management course. All the courses are teaching you more transactional leadership skills. There isn't really a lot of courses that really teach you how to be that transformational leader, how to use those skills in construction. So the last one actually, this is the second last one. We have new research that I added in. So who here has been told to find a mentor if they want to get ahead, or been told if you want to support the next generation to mentor them? Who's been told this? Type a yes or no in the chat. So yes, okay, lots of yeses. Okay, yeah, I was told the same thing too, right? So some people are no's, and that's okay. Really, we've noticed like what are the things that the industry has been doing over the past couple of years to support women? Because like this is a hot button topic, right? Let's get more women in construction, labor shortage, all these reasons. Lots and lots of mentorship programs we've seen, lots of encouragement to get mentorship. And we were kind of told that this is the way forward. And the industry really picked up on this. So we see mentorship programs, we see associations doing it, we see companies doing it. And we actually asked people, like, what does mentorship even mean? And really, someone said in our survey, just a little more redirection and the routes that I can take to further my career. So people are looking for that guidance, right? Like, what are the paths I can take please point me in the right direction. That's what they're asking for. But what's really interesting is that mentorship looks different for men and women. So I want to unpack this a little bit more. So you are a motivated woman, and you're like, I want to level up my career. So you find a mentor, and a mentor is someone that is more experienced than you, either in your company or in the industry. So you go to them and you're like, what do I want to level up? What do I need to do? A typical skill set we hear is you need to understand the business of construction. How does business work? How does the business side work? And you're like, great. How do I do that? They might recommend a book. They might tell a story about how they learned about the business of construction. They might recommend a conference, and you are so inspired. You're like, thank you. I'm so grateful. I'm so inspired. You go back to wherever you work, your site, your car, your office, your cubicle, your home office, wherever you work, and you're like, I read the book. I went to the conference. I'm inspired by your story. Now what? I did all the work. I did all the prep. At the end of the day, in a traditional mentorship model, the mentee, so the junior person, needs to find the opportunity to implement the amazing advice that they got from the mentor. So you got to figure it out on your own. Whereas that's typically how women are mentored. And again, this is not my opinion. This is based on research that we did with NCCER, but also research that others have done in other industries, and it shows up the same way. So how men are mentored, it's usually like they find that experienced person. They're like, I want to level up. What do I need to know? Oh, you need to learn the business of construction. Great. How do I do that? Oh, you know what? I'm golfing with the vice president of business development next week. Why don't you come with me? So then you get to meet that vice president of business development. You understand the goal, what the company's working on. You really start to get to know them, trust them. You're sharing your goals with them. You're building a relationship. You're building trust. And then they're like, oh, you want to learn the business of construction. Oh, I have a client meeting next week. Why don't you come along with me? And I have 10 slides in the deck. And why don't you present the first 3? Because, I want to give you that exposure. And don't worry, if you screw up, it's okay. We know you're new. I will be there and I can step in and make sure this meeting is successful. So that's typically how it shows up for men. And if you think about who is going to advance faster, is it the woman who's preparing for the opportunity, or is it the man who's given the opportunity and he gets to learn as he goes? And the really fascinating thing about this research is that people don't do this on purpose. So people don't wake up in the morning and they're like, I'm going to treat the women on my team differently than the men. Nobody does that. It is not a thing. It's a form of unconscious bias, right? And the kicker and the really unfortunate thing is that it's actually out of really good intentions. So it's like, I want her to be successful. I don't want her to fail. I want her to be, Valerie says 100%. Yeah, I want her to be 100% ready. So when the opportunity comes, she knocks it out of the park. And yeah, those are good intentions. But what actually happens is women get held back from those opportunities where they can get uncomfortable and actually try the thing and actually demonstrate that they know how to do it. So this is kind of a really big reason why men and women don't advance to leadership at the same rate. So this making sense? I know it makes sense for Valerie. Just give me a yes or a no if this is making sense, or if any questions are coming up for you about this concept. Okay, spot on. Okay, awesome. I'm going to keep going because this is what our research revealed is we actually asked people mentorship and sponsorship behavior. So if we ask people, do you have a sponsor or do you have a mentor? We actually don't use the word sponsor in our everyday vocabulary. So we actually ask people questions like, do you have someone that advocates for you? Do you have someone that has given you opportunities? Those are sponsorship questions. Then we ask mentorship questions as well. Do you have someone that you can turn to? Do you have someone that gives you advice? And what we found was that sponsorship happens half as often as mentorship for women. And this insight of like, and really what it is, it's a shift in mindset from advice and preparation to exposure and opportunity. So if we can really shift our mindset to one of opportunity and we can get this bar, the sponsorship bar up higher, the leadership development would happen, would grow at an exponential rate. So this is really fascinating. And what really shows like what we're kind of doing, it's all behavioral. But the thing is, people don't talk about this. And we use the word mentorship to describe everything. The way men are actually sponsored, that's the behavior is what they're doing, but we still call that mentorship. And so there's a real challenge that we're facing right now because the mentorship models do not work for women in construction right now. Amanda, go ahead.
Oh, they're just Renee said, can you be a mentor and a sponsor for someone? And I was going to jump into the chat, but you can say yes, definitely.
Yes, you definitely can. And Renee, I will say I always liked, people always say like, oh, but I think I need a mentor first before I can sponsor. I need to be ready. And I will say sometimes that's like, just really, I would challenge you to be like, do you really need extra preparation? Because I'll talk about like just a little bit more detail of how sponsorship actually works. Because if you think about the story of the man, the vice president bringing the person along and letting them present, it's like sometimes it's like if you think opportunity first, and the way sponsorship is different than mentorship is their skin in the game. So in a mentoring relationship, you could get advice from someone, you could implement that advice, and it could be really bad advice and you completely fail. But at the end of the day, nothing happens to that mentor because like they're not there, right? They didn't open the door and create that opportunity for you. So it's really all on you. Whereas in a sponsoring relationship, there's skin in the game. So in the presenting to the client example, if that vice president brought someone along to that meeting and they were awful, they offended the client, that VP is like, oh dear, they're in trouble as well. So there's this like investment in making sure that person's actually capable and able to rise to the challenge. And there's like something in place that if they fail, it's not a catastrophe. It can be fixed. So that's really where like in a better model, it's like if you think opportunity first, and if you can have that skin in the game on the sponsor's perspective, they're going to create that opportunity for you, but they're actually invested in its success. So if there's something that you need, it's like, oh my gosh, you need to learn how to read the budget, right? Like maybe it's a simple thing. Before I said I bring you to this budgeting meeting, you have to understand how this budget works. Really making sure that, you know, you have that advice, preparation. Maybe you sit down with someone from accounting or something, and that sponsor can organize it for you. That is a better model than kind of the preparation first. Does that make sense, Renee?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so I'm hesitant to say like get a mentor because I'm like, if you could think opportunity first, and once you have that opportunity, it's like, well, leverage that person to make sure you are ready. But if you kind of like are getting ready, hoping and praying for an opportunity, it's really not gonna move things forward. So yes, absolutely, people, that sponsor can step in and give you some advice, prepare you, but in a better model, the opportunity is there and you're actually preparing for an actual opportunity, not a hypothetical opportunity. So this is new research. Renee, you have not even seen this. We talked about employee resource groups, and that was the theme, one of the themes in our 2025 Building Better Research. And what we kind of found out is that they actually aren't enough on their own. So actually, question here, I know a lot of you are in smaller companies. Do any of you have an employee resource group? So that's like a women's group within your company. Let me know yes or no if you have like an employee resource group. No. Okay, so really interesting. Just on the research, we asked this question around specifically around employee resource groups. And then after we got the results, I was like, I wonder if these results would be the same if we asked people about associations. So those are like LadyTitans, like a group like LadyTitans, like NAWIC, like someone brought up like women's transportation seminar, like these women's industry groups. And our researchers said, yeah, like we can probably take the same conclusions based on what's happening here. So this is really, really interesting. So this idea that, okay, the industry said we need more women in construction. How are we going to do it, right? So one thing that companies did was recruit. Another one was mentorship programs. And then the third one that we saw was like these employee resource groups or industry resource groups. So women come together to support each other. And these are all great things. So what's really interesting What do they deliver? So we actually asked people, and so they deliver emotional support and community, increased visibility, networking with senior leaders, leadership development or training, advocacy for workplace improvements, mentorship opportunities. And then I was like, oh my goodness, they are not delivering at the same level on career advancement or promotion opportunities. So this is really, really interesting. And that this idea that kind of like women coming together has got us to kind of like this point where we are today. But if the goal is advancing women into leadership roles, if they're actually not delivering on that. So actually, I would love to know your opinion on this, because this is brand new research. And as we have put it out there, people are like helping us learn more. So I'd love to know your opinion on this and how it's landing for you based on your experience. Type some comments in the chat. Or maybe do you not even understand what I asked? So, when you see this chart, how does this make you feel? Are you like, yeah, it's making sense to me? Or you know what, maybe there's something that you're doing that's different, that's working for you and helping you advance and get to that next level? Oh, so Claire says, when I was a member of an ERG in the past, it was even less effective than this chart shows. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I think someone says, yeah. Okay. So sometimes I think people need different resources at different times. Sometimes they truly need just support and community, but sometimes they feel stable there, but need the advancement. But these needs happen at different times and stages. Yeah. That's a really good insight. Totally. And so this is what we found. And yeah. So I love that you have this. Yeah. So Sarah says, I think for here, we are majority women owned. So there's a lot of support here in our office already, which is awesome. Okay, amazing. Go, Amanda.
I just, yeah. So Lauren asked a question, long one. She can't come off mute, no problem. I think the big difference between mentor and sponsor is internal versus external. I imagine, generally speaking, women do a good job building each other up amongst each other. The opportunity for growth exists in what we do with that built up energy. Then now what do I do when a friend or mentor tells you that you're capable of doing something? So how do you take that step from being a mentor to being a sponsor for someone, which also involves the building the confidence to take action. And I just feel like it fits quite nicely here because you have this group of women already, you're coming together. And one of the we included a quote from a book called Rising Strong in this latest report that we released. And the author has some research that showed that when a women's group started actually operating more like an old boys network. So that is literally with the mentality of like, who do you know? What connection do you have? What resource do you have that could help me get what I want? And what do I have that could help you get what you want? The groups immediately become a lot more impactful. And I think, the comment about needing that emotional support and community, of course, especially, if you're one of none or the only, or, working in an environment where, there aren't that many women, then that can be really helpful. But it's really just this mindset shift. And so that's, I think, the mindset shift from mentorship to sponsorship. It works on this individual level, like what's the opportunity that I could give somebody? What's the exposure? Where can I invite them? Who could I connect them with? And doing that within your ERG or a group like LadyTitans as well, I think. I don't know if you have
Yeah,
something
I think,
to add to that,
yeah,
Andrea.
you nailed it, Amanda. I think it's really that mindset piece. And I think sometimes it's, um, as women, we automatically go into that advice role, right? It's like, what's your challenge? Oh, I hear you. And then you automatically, and like maybe you face that same challenge. It's really easy to give advice and tell your story. But I think part of it is actually as like, just like hold back on advice and really think about, instead of just spewing out what you think they should do or how you handled it, be like, huh, let's pause. What's the opportunity here? And what do I have that could, move this forward? Who could I connect them to? what could I bring them to? And it's just really thinking in your own head. It's almost like pausing a little bit and thinking like, how do we turn this into an opportunity? Does that make sense? Okay, so I'm gonna keep going. And so here's some, I think someone said they had an ERG in their company, but this is, yeah, your experience with the ERG is kind of the same as what we heard in the research. I think ERGs are implemented to check a box. Our group has no real ability to influence change. We're discouraged from having conversations that matter. So that's what kind of people said about employee resource groups. And then kind of some more insights. Really, women are saying their employee resource groups aren't helping them advance in their careers. So only 17% find ERGs very effective. 35% said they're not effective at all. And someone said radical change is needed, and our women's group lacks the cohesive focus and leadership support to make any meaningful changes. So that's really what's happening. And it's just this idea that like the industry kind of employee leadership, that was like the thing to do, and so everybody did it. But I don't want to say that they're necessarily bad. They actually got us to the point where we are today, where like it's actually things are improving. We are getting like momentum. All of those wonderful things are happening, but now it's like what got us to this point. It's like what's the next level? Now it's like about leadership and influence. How do we get women into those senior leadership roles where they can actually influence the industry? And so it really goes down to like mentorship and employee resources are supposed to be the answer to advancing women, but we're finding that they're actually not really delivering on that kind of most important thing is that career advancement and that progression. And then just going back to the engagement piece, it's like 54% of women said their companies have an ERG, but only 27 actively participate. 63% of women said their company has a mentorship program, but only 37% participated. And I looked at these numbers and I was like, huh, interesting. Like we were told like if you want to get ahead, you got to get involved in your ERG and you got to get involved in the mentorship program. And the way that I looked at this, I was like, well, if they were successful, you would see a woman like get involved in the employee resource group. And then, you know, a year or so later, she gets promoted, or you'd see someone join the mentorship program and then get some kind of result afterwards. But I think women are not seeing those results happen. And so they're like, why would I even join in the first place? Because they're really kind of questioning the effectiveness of it. And is there going to be a return on this investment in my time and energy that I pour into these programs? And I think people aren't seeing that result. So they're kind of like not joining anymore.
I feel like, so Ashley just commented, in my last company, I was on the mentorship team, but was never given the mentorship or sponsorship to fuel my advancement. So that, I feel like that sort of fits in there.
Yeah.
You know, maybe you're not as inclined to join again or participate
Yeah.
again, and you're not an example for somebody else to want to join. There were a couple of questions just about like how large or small do you think an ERG should be, and who typically should lead the ERGs within a business? And Andrea was like, I think kind of going in this direction, but I think first of all, the question is asking like why you want to start the ERG in the first place. So if it's about belonging and support and community, you know, I think you can get that in no matter what size. And then but if the goal is really to try and advance women and try to help people get ahead, there might be a better first step to take versus starting the ERG,
Yeah.
or you just want to start it with that very clear intention. And I think a lot of the kind of qualitative feedback we got in the survey was around men's involvement and leadership involvement. So in that kind of vein, a lot of people who had ERGs were saying we're lacking leadership involvement, we're lacking men's involvement. But meanwhile, it was a group created for women. So just interesting what happens once you create it. So, but leadership buy-in, I think, is important. But I also think that having like women be able to guide what the outcomes are is also important. Recognizing that time was a big thing that came up for folks too.
Yeah, time. And I think really like that sponsorship mindset, if you could bring that to the employee resource group, that would be the most effective thing that you could do. And so really just talking about the problem, really, if you sum all of this up, The problem is that existing leadership training doesn't address these issues. It doesn't really talk about transformational leadership, doesn't talk about the difference between mentorship and sponsorship. And really, a lot of the initiatives today have been kind of put the onus of responsibility on women, right? It's like, okay, we're going to create this women's group and women are going to actually solve this problem. But the reality is, like Amanda said, men aren't involved, leadership not involved. So, how can women make this change? And women have to do their job and carry this like extra burden of like, how do I be the role model for the next generation? How do I advance my career? How do we make this industry more inclusive for everybody? And that's a lot. um, so that's the problem. And the thing is, what I thought was really interesting is we asked women if they do want to advance and grow their careers. Because I've heard this thing before. Like, we talk to a lot of leaders and they're all like, oh, Andrea, I want women in leadership at my company. But no one's like putting their hand up to say, like, I want to be the vice president, or I want to be the COO, or I want to be the CEO. And I was like, well, and then they're like, people, you know, that saying, like, oh, you should be happy with like the growth in your role, right? Like, oh, you can grow within your role, your title doesn't matter. I was like, is that a thing for women in construction? I wasn't seeing it in the women that we were working with. So we actually asked people in the survey, and 87% of women said they wanted to grow their careers. And in the qualitative, we even had answers like, I want to like be rewarded for my work, and I want the recognition in a new title and salary to go with it. We heard things like, I want to be a part of the decision making process in my company. So, this idea that women are kind of like happy to just exist and not have that advancement is completely a myth. So, most women do want to get ahead. They want that formal recognition and they want that influence. And really, the solution is we kind of call it calling it the elephant. So, just simply acknowledging that leadership is different for men and women is really how we can take things forward. So, you have to understand that, you know, recognizing that this is a thing, it's nobody's fault. It's not that men are better than women, it's just different. And if you recognize that, you can move forward. And that's really what we did. And why we created this NAWIC Leadership Academy. It is a specific course for women in construction to help you leverage your transformational leadership skills, help you find a sponsor, help you really like understand how things work so that you can kind of get yourself to that next level and bring more value to your company. And so I want to hear, Renee, how are you doing with your kiddos?
I'm hanging in.
You're hanging in. Okay. Do you want to talk about your story, or do you want me to just read this beautiful testimonial and then I'll show a video of somebody else?
I mean, we can talk about it a little bit. I have a few minutes that I think will be uninterrupted, so
Okay,
it's
amazing.
good timing.
Okay, perfect. So let's talk about like when you joined the Leadership Academy, what was going on for you?
Yeah, so I got a really awesome opportunity through our vendor Ferguson that was looking for women in the industry to be able to put through the Ambition Theory leadership course, and filled out the application and was offered the opportunity to do it. And really, we're just kind of in our company at this point where I'm kind of leveling myself up, getting to the point where my dad is ready to step away more because he's the owner of the company, and have me take on more, and just kind of in a rut confidence wise. So it was really good timing to do this, to kind of pull myself out of the rut and realize that everything that I'm kind of working towards, and the leadership training that I'm doing and things I'm trying to implement, are working. Um, so it was really eye-opening and validating to go through the Ambition Theory course, and I can't recommend it more to anybody that's in the industry and feels like they're kind of stuck of where to go. Um, yeah, that's kind of the short version of it.
Okay, so one thing, Renee, can you just talk about like what was the thing? You're like, okay, my confidence is right. It's like you're literally experiencing all the things that this presentation talked about, right? Like your confidence was down. There's probably you knew, and I don't even know if you had self-identified that you needed to be more confident. You're stuck in this rut. What was the thing that got you out of it?
The leadership probably brand survey that you guys did. So during Ambition Theory, it's a 6-week course, and a 8 weeks?
Hey,
8 weeks. 8-week course. And one of them was I had to send out a leadership survey to fellow peers, coworkers, leaders that I work with. And the results that I got back were all the things that I was kind of telling myself I was doing, but I'm like, I don't know if what I'm doing is right. So that hearing all of the feedback of like, you are building the best culture in your business, you are, the best manager or boss I've ever had, like just things that I've really worked towards internally in myself and in the business, just knowing that that was actually working. I'm like, okay, I do know what I'm doing. People are telling me I know what I'm doing. Like now you get that like extra kick in the butt, so to speak, and are ready to, kind of thrive forward.
Okay, I love it. So, would you say that we helped you like see the transformational leadership skills that you were already bring to the table, so that you could like double down on that and like leverage them in the business?
100%, because I feel like sometimes when I'm sitting at the table and I'm the only female manager with the other, managers in our business, and they're all talking about their, like you said, the sales numbers and growth, and my focus was more on the culture because before our customer service team was kind of negative and it just had really bad turnover. And I'm like, okay, now that I'm managing it, we need to turn this around. And over the last probably 5 years, people enjoy coming to work, and that, like you said, that's not something that you can really measure, but besides less turnover. And so being able to feel the transformational and even show my team, like, hey, these are some things that I've been working towards and they're working, kind of gives that like transactional, so to speak, on the back end of it. So I think, yeah, I never looked at it the way that you explained it. So it's, yeah, it was just very eye-opening. Like, I'm gonna keep using the word validating, because it's just you get stuck and everything you talk about, the double bind. I'm someone who's always been a little more outspoken, and when you're told to be quiet so many times, you kind of teach yourself that you should be quiet. And this kind of told me that no, you shouldn't be quiet. You need to still be yourself, and you still not only do you deserve the seat at the table, but you have the seat at the table already.
Okay, I love it. And what I think was so interesting of what you said, it's like the guys sit around and talk about sales and blah blah blah, right? But then I'm like this quote that you gave me that's on the screen right now. It's like we exceeded our 2024 revenue goal of 10 million. So it's really interesting. You weren't explicitly talking about sales, but you were looking at it from a big picture strategic perspective, right? If we can fix customer service, probably going to be more sales, right? If we can get everyone on board with the goals of the company and building the culture, everyone's going to have these positive behaviors that ultimately are going to lead to more sales. And so you weren't necessarily talking about sales, but you were talking about like actually what leads to more sales, and you did that,
Exactly.
and you actually exceeded your revenue goal. So I think
Yep.
that's like kind of the cherry on the top for me. When I remember we were in the course still, when you told me this, I was like, okay, yeah, this is literally why this is the ROI of transformational leadership. Like you can exceed your sales, like in
And
that way.
you talked about at the beginning the above the line and below the line, and I know I've told you that that was probably a huge takeaway for me. I've brought that back into my business because it's really easy when things aren't going the way they should to stay below the line. And it just takes one person to have that above the line mentality to bring everybody above it. And that can also help change your culture. So even in our management meetings, I would go in and we're making a lot of changes. Last year we did our first ever budget, which was just exhausting for everybody. And everyone's kind of spread thin. And so it's like, it's very easy to go below the line when you have experiences like that. So when I first started out of like, okay, we're going to stay above the line. We're going to stay curious. We're going to like look for resolutions, not for why it's not working and excuses. And implementing that in my own mind, and I even have it on my wall now to remind myself like, okay, we need to stay above the line no matter what's going on. And if we find ourselves below the line, how do we get it back? There were even things I was trying to implement that I was getting a lot of pushback on, from my dad. The story I shared with you was I'm trying to make more structure and job descriptions, and one thing that he was struggling with was, he doesn't come from that world. We've grown it pretty organically over the last 30 plus years that he's been involved. And how now I'm coming in trying to do something different, and change is hard for people. And so instead of saying like, hey, we need to do X, I started asking it differently. So I started saying, okay, so if we hire this position, what does success look like? What do you want to see from this position? And I just started trying to again stay curious of what is the overall goal instead of saying what are his job duties. And by getting the answers from him of, okay, what success, then I kind of worked backwards and was able to make that for him. So even in just like normal day-to-day operations, being able to stay curious, try to keep everyone above the line instead of like, hey, we need goals for this position. He's like, I don't want to do goals. I don't want to XYZ, like whatever it may be. Was still able to get the answers done without actually, kind of hitting heads on it, so to speak.
Oh, I love this so much because it's, yeah, like you're literally like using the transformational leadership skills. And I think that's really cool. It's because like 30 ways of doing something, like this is the way we've always done it, doesn't give you like lead you to growth, right? If you want exponential growth, you got to try something different. And I love you above the line, below the line to do that. That is so powerful. So thank you, Renee. I'm going to skip. Okay, so I want to quickly just talk about the NAWIC Leadership Academy. So this is the course that Renee took. Lauren's in it right now. So it's meant for people like you in construction. It's online. So it's an online learning platform, and you have on-demand content. So you can watch the video, listen to a podcast, read an article on your own time. And then we meet every week for an hour on Zoom for live coaching, where it's all about implementation. We have guest speakers, we have networking, there's an online community. And like Renee talked about, there's a leadership brand assessment, which is really the tool, the secret sauce, your secret weapon to navigate the double bind and really show the value that you bring to the table. So that's what the course is. The price is regularly $1,999, but we have a special offer for you that we just decided like right before this call because we love LadyTitans. But that's the course, and I'm going to skip. I had a backup video in case Renee's kids were needing her support. So we're going to skip that. But we would love to have you join us in our next cohort. So it starts April 28th. And so just a couple questions on like what, I know Renee's gotten some pretty great results from him. So just want to talk to you about like what would hold you back from investing in your leadership. So does anyone have any questions about it? I can put like the course details back up. Yeah, the price is in US dollars. We find people are always like the price. People are always like, oh, it's kind of a lot of money. And we'll say like for Renee, like we always strive to get an ROI. So that's why I always ask, like I always know what people get out of the course because we always are pushing you to get a return on investment. So really, if you think about Renee exceeding that $10 million revenue goal, what is the value of that? It's usually probably more than $2,000. What is the value of having that customer service team on the same page, working on sales? There's always a return on that investment, and I will say that when you invest in yourself, it's really like a commitment to your own leadership development.
I also think that I personally have never had or heard of a course that's directed towards women leadership. And I think that was the game changer for me. There's a lot of leadership courses out there. A lot of them can be redundant. This one, specifically pinpoints being a woman in leadership in construction, where we're in a predominantly male industry. So it's just way different than I've ever taken before. I think you talked about it, but it's 8 weeks and it's only 1 hour a week for a live session. And then it's got like a course that you go back on the back end and have some homework to do. And Andrea is really great at networking and putting people together. I've already connected with a couple people since just by her, yes, her knowing me and even some of the people in my cohort specifically. So even though they're not in the home service industry, they're in construction, and we have a lot of relative and relatable experience that we're kind of going through. So it's been amazing to go through it, honestly. And I'm happy to, most of you guys have my direct contact. So if you ever have any questions, you can reach out to me about the course as well.
Yeah. So we'd love for you to join us in this. And we do have an info session on April 15th, and you can come to that to see if this program is a fit for you. And we actually just decided this morning, Amanda, and Nora, who is on our team, that we love LadyTitans so much. And like, actually, Renee, this is an example of sponsorship, right? It's like, Andrea, I'm going to like invite you to talk to my people. And so I was like, oh, I so appreciate that. And we know a lot of you are in small businesses. So we're a small business too. And sometimes like the price can be a barrier, and we don't want that to be a barrier for you. So right now, if you go to our website, you like we have an early bird special on right now. So it's $18.99. You save $100. But we want to come back to you with like an even better deal. So we are we'll like if you sign up on here, we'll kind of like let you know what that is. We just have to confirm it on our end how much it's going to be, and we'll make you like a promo code. It'll be like Titans or something that you can go in and you can get a better deal. Just because we were really busy for Women in Construction Week, so it was on our agenda this morning, and I'm like, well, it's starting in 5 minutes. I'm like, we'll just follow up with them later with the details. So yeah, so we just have to do the number crunching, but we're going to come back to you with like a better pricing option. So if you do want it, just type your email address in the chat so that we make sure we can get that to you, and we'll have that for you kind of by tomorrow morning.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah,
Andrea,
and that's
thank you
it.
so much. Yeah, that was fantastic. Really appreciate all the insight that you had for us and then all the data that backs it up. Like that is always extremely interesting and just validating. And so thank you for taking the time to share with us and encourage us and lead us on to doing bigger and better things. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. And we can stick around for a bit longer if anyone has a question.
Okay.
And Emily, I know we can ask questions and it's recorded. Sometimes we find if we stop the recording, people might have a juicy question they want to get some input on, that isn't recording. So that's another option too, if
Yeah.
you want to.
Awesome. And then can people reach out to you maybe directly if they did want to have a private conversation, but maybe
Yeah,
not on here after
totally.
we stop the recording? If you want to maybe just
Yes.
put that down in the chat of how they could contact you. But yes, thank you so much for sharing that. And then Lady Titans, just so you know, we do have a few things up and coming. We have our Titans Lounge on April 9th, which is a perfect example of when you need that emotional support and community. You just need to feel heard. And so our Lady Titans Lounge is completely unrecorded, unscripted. It is an open time for you guys to share and tap into the group of the Lady Titans with whatever you might be needing or needing something to celebrate even. That's what we're here for that community and support. We will also be having our next Spotlight series on April 15th with Sydney Olson from Hook Agency. And she's going to be talking about like how to talk like a boss. So how do you give your internal dialect to yourself, and then also how to speak confidently to command the room and to earn the respect that you deserve and things like that. So I heard that talk at the Women in HVAC conference. It was a fantastic job. I know all of you will have a fantastic time listening and growing from that. So that is April 15th. And then also on this same leadership track, we are going to have our very first ever kind of webinar session that will be hosted by Angie Snow. It is called Radiant Leadership, How to Reset Your Mindset and Shine with Confidence. And so that is on April 22nd with Angie Snow. That is a $25 investment. And so we're going to put that link down here of how you can register and sign up. So this is the first ever class that we've ever charged for. But this does go to help further the mission of Lady Titans so we can grow and impact more women, but also just give you a little bit more skin in the game. And I promise you, it will be every penny worth of $25. So join us on April 22nd. Time will be 2 p.m. Eastern time. So just be watching all of our social medias and emails coming out with more details for that. But yes, Andrea, Amanda, thank you guys so much. Like we said, we will turn off the recording here. So if you want to stick around and ask any questions, or you can reach out to them directly, they put their email there, hello@ambitiontheory.ca. So thank you guys so much. I hope everyone has a fantastic Tuesday and hope to see you soon at the Lady Titans Lounge. Thank you.